The Ethical Society of Police was founded in the 1970s, but we started our chapter in St. Louis County in 2018. It's a simple mission: fairness and equality for everyone. We want equality across the board.
It began as a fight, but it was certainly a fight that was needed, a fight that was well warranted, and a fight that is continuing on with myself for the advocacy of future members and current members as well.
Police departments in general, I think, are slow to respond to the needs of the mental health aspect for first responders, particularly police officers. I appreciate you all. The idea about the rural retreat actually started on kind of like a whim. The initial trip that we all took to Kentucky Lake was just about 7 of us.
He came up with this idea of like, hey, let's go camping. And I remember hearing that, I'm like, what, camping? Like, no, I'm not trying to be in the middle of Kentucky somewhere in some rural area around bugs and all that kind of stuff. Just really more so glamping. And, you know, before you get to that camping period, we're not roughing it that hard.
So I was a part of that first group. It was only about 7 or 8 of us that came down, and we basically just started discussion and dialogue on how to get more officers to really tap into their mental health and well-being.
After a summer of really hard times trying to get the chapter together, you know, we faced a lot of uphill battles politically, internally, and we just felt we needed to get away from the city and kind of come together, kind of relieve some stress. And in those moments where we had the conversations about how important the mission is of Ethical Society of Police and the importance of driving membership and building community awareness, we talked about the emotional toll and the mental toll that struggle took.
I probably would not have understood what racial trauma truly meant as soon as I did if I was going through this alone.
A lot of times, being police officers, we have to suppress our emotions, be stoic. And over time that builds up. We felt that this would be the ideal spot that people would feel comfortable expressing themselves in a way that they normally wouldn't. And so that was the genesis of what developed into the mental health retreat.
Coming out to this rural area out here at Kentucky Lake, it allows kind of that peace and quiet.
You get out here and it's really serene, it's really quiet, and you have nothing else but the water, the trees, and your friends.
I was looking forward to conversing with and spending quality time with my colleagues without the distractions of not only our day-to-day, but our colleagues who couldn't possibly understand what we go through and the importance of this organization.
I think it really allows us the ability to tap in with our inner self and to find that peace so that we can open up with one another and be vulnerable and share those stories and figure out how we can help everyone out.
I thought it would be great to include mental health practitioners in the retreat to facilitate those conversations and also provide coping skills, ways that we can not only identify in ourselves when we're meeting a breaking point and we need to seek help, but also identifying those issues or those signs in our loved ones and even our colleagues.
Once Ray reached out about being a part of the retreat, that's when I kind of started to do some research about how we might want to tackle some of the things that he wanted to discuss. But as a part of that, I stumbled upon a whole bunch of really deeply intricate, things that are a part of not only this intersection of mental health and also not being a police officer or a first responder and also being one of those and being Black. And so it's just deep to look at in paper and research.
The program and the plan that we came up for this weekend is Tiffany being amazing in her research. she's going to go and dig. And so she did a bunch of digging, and we have a program that's trauma informed with the research of what ESOP stands for, but also being personalized enough to meet the officers and the dispatchers for where they're at. We want to be prepared and at the same time be able to pivot on the dime for what's in the room. Because if we miss the people in the room, we haven't done our job.
You have to lay your body flat to the ground.
Misconceptions are something that we're always continuing to try and sort out as mental health professionals, because there's just a lot of stigma around it. Now, obviously, if we're talking about race-based things, there's a lot that goes into that.
My progression on the police department started on the front lines during Ferguson. So kind of seeing how certain people were treated, that was an eye-opener.
Ferguson was really hard for me just because there was so many different emotions from everybody. I mean, we were working 12-hour shifts, no days off. It was emotionally draining just to be out there on the front line every single day, getting spit on. I mean, people throwing bottles of urine. Like, it was all kinds of things going on. And then you go home from that and it just never goes away. Like, someone's always asking questions like, what do you think about this? Or how you want to deal with this? And it was so emotionally draining for me.
That brought to the forefront for Black officers the dichotomy of being, one, charged with your profession of upholding the law and things of that nature, but at the same time being a part of the community that is outraged, is feeling that same anger, and having to be confronted by people that challenge, why are you on that side? For me, that was like the moment where I recognized that there was something else that I was experiencing that was race-based related to that, you know? And I didn't really have a word or a diagnosis, if you will, for that until I had the conversation with the therapist years later. What do you do once you've suppressed all of your emotions and replaced it with professionalism and being stoic on the scene for 8, 10, 12 hours of the day? That downloading has to happen so that it doesn't compile and you get to a point where officers are choosing unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether it's alcohol, drugs, you know, promiscuity, you name it, gambling, to kind of cope for what they're feeling because they haven't been able to download that stress, depression.
Every single officer takes an oath. And I pray that every officer gets to come home alive, because they're part of the community too, which sometimes the community forgets. They're human beings, they're mothers, they're fathers, they're our sisters and brothers, and so on and so forth. It's a dangerous job.
The hardest parts of the job are when you can't help people. People contact us often when they are experiencing the worst moment of their entire life. At a moment where you're scared for your life and all you have is my voice on the phone. I can do what I can, but sometimes those calls don't end very well at all. I'll be honest, it has exacerbated my anxiety quite a bit. A lot of these calls stay with me forever. It has definitely affected my mental health in ways that I didn't anticipate.
When my dad was killed in 2021, I was actually working during the time, and I actually was called to the scene. I actually went to the scene of my dad being on the side of the road in uniform, and I had to keep my composure and keep all of my family members calm and reassure them. And I was unable to even grieve my own dad's death. And so now I feel like there's a certain piece of me has been robbed, but I have to remain tough. I have to continue going because I have a lot of people counting on me, but I also got to understand that if I'm not at my best, then I can't be at the best for anybody else.
Oftentimes, they're in these positions where they are being the strong person. You don't have to be strong all the time. It's actually not healthy to be strong all the time. Strength is the ability to corral who you are, and yet at the same time, know how to be vulnerable and weak.
law enforcement or even, like I was in the military, it was like if you were asking for help, it meant you were weak. But I think like we need to get rid of that because it's doing a disservice, obviously. I think there's kind of been a shift in police work as far as like the mental health component where they're kind of talking about mental health and getting therapy, and it's not kind of like this scary word of like, oh, if you seek therapy, you're gonna get fired. It's becoming more open because they are seeing officers that are struggling and there's no shame of asking for help.
At least from where I sit, mental health is about not the extremes that people kind of jump to, but just about taking care of yourself every day.
One thing that the therapist talked about last year was, what do you do to take care of yourself? And I realized in that moment that I really wasn't doing much to take care of myself, and having the stress of having 2 little kids, but also worrying about my dad not coming home or not seeing my dad, and then them not having grandparents. And I think it's really helped me kind of ground myself and also open up more when I'm not okay, because it's okay to say you're not okay. And before last year, I wasn't really doing that very well, and I was internalizing a lot of my feelings.
It's okay to deal with the person in the mirror, and if you don't like the reflection that you see, it's okay to start digging in. Find you someone, create your community, create your circle. That wall that you build up, it does not protect you. It actually locks all of that stuff that you don't like back there with you.
So I would encourage them to find those individuals in their lives that they can trust and communicate those things through. And if need be, seek professional help. Don't be afraid to do so.
My hope is that we can leave an impression about therapy or counseling that destigmatizes it enough for them to be able to reach out, if not with us, but for any other kind of help that might be worth it.
We definitely want to keep this going long term, and we hope it continues to grow every year.
As we kick in doors, let's start breaking these walls down, one stone at a time.
Most of us, at least myself, we join this profession because we have a desire to improve the conditions where we live and to be able to help others. As I transitioned into retirement, it was good to see that there was young people willing to take on the torch, knowing that they will be targeted while speaking truth to power is actually refreshing, and it gives me like hope that our work won't end when I leave.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The Ethical Society of Police it culminates everything that he's always worked for throughout his whole career. So very proud of him and all that it's turned into.
I'm now the person that's advocating. So I have to put my best foot forward. I have to do a good job. I have to make sure that our members are supported and I'm acting accordingly within our mission.
I want to make sure that we have members from all races. I don't just want this to be a minority-based organization. I want whoever wants to join us in our mission, I want them to become a part of it.
We've told our members, you guys can access us 24 hours a day because policing is 24 hours a day.
I know some of these guys. I've talked to them on the radio. I've witnessed them in action. And I know that they will represent me the way I need them to. I know they will fight. And I was actually disappointed in myself that I didn't join sooner.
I want ESOP to be that organization that community folks can believe in, that they can trust, and that they know can serve as an advocate for them, right? That's what the Ethical Society of Police always needs to use as their North Star. That is who you are. That is how you were birthed. That is how you're going to continue to live on.
We're going to come together. I would say 5 to 10 years, I would like the police department to look similar to the community that they serve. To be able to have those minority candidates able to have that seat at the table that they rightfully deserve.
I want everybody in St. Louis to know what the Ethical Society of Police is. I want our name to ring out when, they need people to call on for community events, for help. We want to be able to just be the ultimate resource for everyone, not just St. Louis County, but the entire region.